Another shot of the box cover. Yeah, it's a pretty cover. I like the ancient remains with the tank going through them, and then of course this sort of, I don't know if you can kind of see the shadows, the ghosts of the commanders looking things over. Anyway, for whatever reason, when I did the intro, I showed that force of habit and everything. Anyway, let's take a look at the special rules for Reluctant Enemies itself. And then maybe I can get started, although I'm really dragging my feet on this sucker. You know, it's because it's a monster in terms of the system and the rules. There's so much in it. So, the very reason that this is a playable intro to it, or that's the intention, it kind of gets in the way for me because I'm used to the monster and being in that monster mindset. And I'm in that monster mindset approaching this, which probably isn't the best of choices across the board. Anyway, what do we got that's special here? Because of the scale, turns are only 2 days each, I think. Although, looks like they don't always manage that. Instead of the 4 or 2 per week that you usually have in the OCS. The units are also going to be smaller. The hex range is smaller. Let's see what we got here. Aircraft are able to fly over the entire map. That's one of the changes. Okay, there's some things that are referred to later. And then in general, though, you'll be using standard OCS rules for this. The weather's always good during this campaign. They go over the different counter color and unit designations. Damascus is an open city. Any Vichy units defending in either and it really wasn't, but they chose not to defend it. Any Vichy units defending in either hex of Damascus have their defense strengths halved and get no defensive benefit from the major city terrain. The terrain will be open. Vichy units may benefit from the river, however. Well, can we find Damascus? It's up here. Kind of cluttered. Fuel costs. Paying 1 SP for the headquarters and all independents as fuel doesn't apply in this game. Units of a multi-unit brigade or regiment must each pay their own fuel costs each time they move. However, there's going to be an optional rule which helps mitigate that effect a little bit. There's these little mile markers, help you in counting. Okay, railroads. So each player is going to have a rail cap indicated in the scenario rules. That's how much they can ship by rail. Each point of interest in the game functions as detrainable hex. They don't specify what a point of interest is, but then they give some examples. And basically, if I have any reason to believe that there's something interesting there, like this piece of tobacco, I'm going to allow you to detrain there. Obviously, also headquarters. Roads and trace supply. In this game, roads, but not tracks, can be used to trace supply back to supply sources exactly as if they're railroads. Each road functions as a detrainable hex. Now, I'm not quite sure why this is in existence, because you see, whatever trucks you have moving stuff should be in operation and be on the board. I think it's a desire to limit the counter mix, to tell you the truth, more than anything else. Trucks and wagons, these can freely break down into 1 token size units at any time. Countermix is not a limit. Engineering capabilities. All headquarters engineers and pioneers have engineering capabilities. No hedgehogs can be built unless you have an optional rule in play, which allows the French to build a level 1 hedgehog. And there's actually a counter which supports a level 2 hedgehog as well. No hip shoots allowed. Naval barrage. All right, now we're getting into kind of the interesting stuff. The Commonwealth player has 2 naval units. The Vichy has 1. these go in the naval barrage box fired side up. They become eligible for naval barrage during the naval barrage segment of their respective naval phases. And we've got turns in which they're eligible. We're starting in June 8th. So they're both going to have a potential. What you do is you roll a die, see if the unit's available for the barrage. If it is, I think that they can just sail to launch an attack. The Commonwealth is limited to south of this line. The Vichy, anywhere north of 33XX. Which is over here. No marker there, but probably not going to be operating there. And they can't shoot at each other. They kind of ignore each other, I guess. The naval barrages will be considered spotted. British destroyers and cruisers can combine their barrage. At the end of the movement, the naval barrage units return fired side up, and they'd have to make another roll next turn to see if they get another shot. Combat unit recovery. Losses in OCS are a little too high for this game. So, let's fudge something. Units recover their losses in the reinforcement phase prior to rebuilds. You track the number of step losses that have occurred in the game. Each group of 3 step losses allows 1 unit to return to play. For every 3 step losses, draw a random unit from the dead pile. All the units are 1 step, so that's not... recover that unit in the current turn. Recover as many units as you have groups of 3 step losses. Those go within 2 hexes of an appropriate headquarters. And then you get normal rebuilds after that. You can retain 1 or 2 steps of losses if you have overage. Special rules for the Commonwealth. Their reinforcements, they get supplied by a die roll. The replacements are received during replacement phases, determined by a die roll. This is all back here. You got the replacement table. Somewhere there's going to be a supply table, I assume. I thought there's a roll for a supply. But that's what I saw here, but yep, there's a Commonwealth supply table somewhere. Well, I can't see it here. There's a Vichy supply table there. Ah, here it is, up here. All right. The commandos. All right. So this is what's holding me up. Is really the commandos, and reading it through with you will help. The Commonwealth has the 11th Commando Battalion, lots of words about that. Amphibious landing. Prior to the Vichy setup, the Allied player plans a landing attempt by writing and designating a single coastal hex as the landing hex. It can be anywhere in this little box. On turn 1, the Commonwealth player will attempt to land all the commandos in the landing hex at the end of the movement phase, after resolution of any naval and air barrages. Roll a die. On a 1 through 3, the landing attempts will be performed immediately in the following movement phase. On a 4 to 6, they'll be delayed until the last action of the movement segment of the exploitation phase. Prior to the landing attempts, the Commonwealth rolls for each commando to see if they land in the hex they're supposed to, or 1 hex away. If there's no enemy combat units in the hex they actually land in after drift, then they'll check using the ALT, which has to be here somewhere, up there, and it depends on the terrain, and they basically need a die roll, a good die roll to get in there. If there is an enemy combat unit, then you have to resolve an assault on the beach. And on turn 1, including the Vichy player turn, each commando has combat supply. Commandos do not have to check for trace supply during their supply phase. Each Commonwealth movement phase, including turn 1 after the commando landing attempts, and Commonwealth exploit phase, where any commando unit is on the coast and out of trace supply, the Royal Navy can attempt to land 2 tokens of supply in any one hex containing any such commandos. On a roll of 3 to 6, 2 tokens of supply land. Otherwise it fails. If commandos are fighting in conjunction with non-commandos, they can't use their action rating. They're very good units. If during a supply phase a commando is found to be in trace supply, it's withdrawn and removed from play. Otherwise, amphibious landing works as normal for them. The Commonwealth headquarters, they go into specifics about what each headquarters actually can do. It looks like they can do everything. I don't know. I hate when they spell things out with so many words and I don't see too much difference. So, for example, it gives their defensive strength of 2, which should be fucking printed on the counters if they're going to spell this out. These guys have a defensive strength of 5, the core headquarters, when they're on combat side. Haifa is going to be a nominal headquarters, but only for rebuilds. God, I'm tired already. All right, we're taking a break. We'll come back in a few hours. There's only like another page and a half or so let's just try to plow through this crap. Commonwealth brigades. The Commonwealth have some units that have a different symbol, have a color on them here of some sort. Oh, look, a green circle on them. No, I don't think that's this. That's got like a gray circle, but that's all I can find. 21st and 25th, yeah, it's these guys. What that means is up till a certain date, they actually only have a 3 quality. That date is certain. Sometime, it's on here, July 1st. Is that noted somewhere? Jeez, God. You know, I don't know. I guess you just memorize it along with everything else. I'm just getting tired of this. Commonwealth off-map holding box. You can hold air bases there. It doesn't say how big it is. Yeah, it does here, 3. Vichy. Vichy have units that are restricted. They have little markers on them to indicate that. Then it lists where they all are, even though that's all in the setup guide. These units can, and I'm not going to double check the rules to make sure the setup guide is correct. Restricted units may not move, and the artillery may not barrage unless released during the reinforcement or reaction phase of the unit. They can be in reserve. On game turn 1, the restricted units may be released, 1 of the total, not 1 per hex. On game turn 2, 2 more units can be released, and then at the beginning of game turn 3, all the rest become released. Transjordan movement limitation. No Vichy units are allowed to move into the Transjordan prior to turn 3, so no offensive in that direction. Okay, now we have all this information on the Vichy headquarters. And again, I don't think there's a hell of a lot here that's that different. Combat strength of 5, which is fucking annoying because that's not the same as anything else. And then that takes up this much space to write. The fact that there's a combat strength and it's not on the counter. Just fucking put it on the counters and we wouldn't have to worry about this. It's 1 RE in size. Yeah, well, okay. That's important because this is half an RE in size. This can supply any Vichy units. These guys can supply any Vichy units in range. They have full engineering capacities. You know, I mean, this could be said in a lot less words. That's and a lot of the rule books kind of grating on me that way this time. I love the paper. I like the writing in general, but when trying to explain the rules, it's a pain in the ass. Beirut and Damascus have nominal headquarters that work for rebuilds only. Great. Reinforcement supply. Just not in the mood for something this wordy. I don't care. Okay, Rayak Air Base has a holding box on map. What's so special about that? I don't fucking know. Is it just something? Yeah, it's just something to indicate what's on the map. But Rayak's special. Like the off-map box that the Allies have, it does not require supply to refit planes. And because it's on map, it's got a 10 hex zone that it can create a patrol zone from, and it can also create some flak effects. Okay, now optional rules. Commonwealth headquarters. So replacing all the words over here with this, which is a lot shorter actually, I think, at least better laid out, so maybe we'll use these. The Australian 7th Division headquarters, British 6th Division, blah, 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 blah. These have a strength of 2. Yeah, we already wrote this. And a half RE in size. Okay, so this is all there, but the Allen 7th Division headquarters can supply any Commonwealth units except Free French within its range. Basically, what they could have written here, from what I can tell, because again, I don't want to read through the same paragraph again and again. It's essentially the same paragraph. Each of the British divisionals can supply any British units. That would be easy enough to write in one paragraph. The Free French division can only supply Free French units within range. And it has full engineering capabilities except for bridging. Oh wait, some of these don't. Okay, so the Indians don't have bridging capabilities. And this can only recover Free French units. However, this can recover anything including Free French. Oh no, some of them say no. One of them is except, 2 of them are including. The Australians cannot do the Free French. Yeah. All right. Alternative brigade and regiment refueling. Game-specific rule 1.5 applies to independent units required. Yeah. Commonwealth. All units in the Commonwealth brigades can be fueled at the cost of 1 supply per brigade and will remain fueled until their next cleanup. Basically, you use a fuel marker like you would on divisions. Great. The Free French division can be fueled at the cost of 1 supply point and will remain fueled until their next cleanup. Great! Vichy. Yeah, it looks like the same kind of shit happens with the Vichy. The difference is they're allowed to attach some extra stuff. And artillery and the Levant light armor can be attached to each one. And of course, this has to be spelled out on each single unit again. Okay, and the final special rule, and then we take another break so that I don't know. I mean, whatever. I really don't fucking care at this point. The Vichy historically, you know, the fatigue of going through all the rules has dimmed my desire to play. Not that I had much anyway, because of facing this initial decision of having to make a deployment decision right off the bat without any kind of, hey, this is where you should go if you want to match the historical or anything like that. I don't know. Maybe I'm just a bitchy-ass mood today, but this is the second time in a very short period of time that I've tried to face this game. And it's not the OCS rules. It's just me. The Vichy player can build 1 hedgehog anywhere during the course of the campaign game. The cost is 2 supply points. The question is whether or not their historical defenses are enough to qualify as a hedgehog. And I guess we'll play with this. So this is going to be a 21-turn game. It's fairly long. There is a shorter scenario that's only, what, 9 turns to handle the beginning of the operations. Victory is based on grabbing stuff. Okay. Either player can score sudden death by controlling a sudden death victory hex. The Vichy, it's the Commonwealth entry hexes and supply sources, A, B, and C, which are here, here, and here. If I get any one of them and I have trace supply going to it as the Vichy, I win. The Commonwealth gets it from Beirut or the air base. Beirut's up here, the air base is up here. Those are the only two. Damascus does not count. And basically there's going to be three routes of advance here. One along the coast, one kind of up the middle through crappy terrain, here at least, and then one over on the far eastern side of Syria, where the terrain's much better until you get right around Damascus, and then it turns to crap again. After that, then, you look at the victory points for each location and add them up and compare them on the victory point determination table, which is here, and it's aligned for the two different scenarios. What you can see is the Allies are expected to gain victory points here, and we have 9 for the campaign. Now, I think whoever holds them gets the points, right? Nope, only the Commonwealth player gets points. So he's got to get above 9 to get any kind of victory. And we can kind of look for these. Damour, 1309. Help if they were... Okay, that's up here. Some place called Aintree. Just here. Okay, that's 3. Sidon, 1807. Oh, we start working south, huh? Sidon's worth 1. Merjayon is worth some 1. Hasbaya, and some of these are pretty hard to see, they're pretty minor things, is worth 1. Raishai is worth 1. Almansa, and I might want to put discs out for these, is worth 2. Yafuf is worth some 1. Demas, 15.24, is worth some 1. And the 2 hexes of Damascus are each worth 2. You have to control the hex by being the last person to go through it, and you have to have it in trace supply. Commandos don't have to check for trace supply, however, they don't give you it for victory conditions. Okay. On the first turn of the game. So you can't, like, somehow get your commandos to Beirut and win the game or something, I guess. That's what that's meant to. And yeah, I think I'll dig up some chips and put them there, because otherwise I got no idea what I'm going for. So given that the commandos can be in supply kind of on their own, I'm going to try to land here. That may end up getting me into this town here, which would be bad. But in general, the closer to my own forces that I land, the less effect these commandos are going to have. And I kind of want them to be able to subvert river lines for me. The problem, of course, is I might have a hard time getting across the first 2 river lines. So maybe I want to roll a die or something. I don't know. Let's do that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Alright, we're going to go with that hex. At this point now, I have to decide where to set up my Vichy French. And most of them are set up on the board, but I've got these reserve markers to allocate, and then I've got this additional force here, which can be put on the coastal hexes. And these are here to prevent an advance along the coastal road, as well as any kind of shenanigans by those commandos. It's going to take me some time to figure out. After much consideration, I came to the conclusion that the problem's too complex to figure out without really seeing the game in action a little bit. And, you know, my first moves are probably going to be facing too complex a decision without having seen the game in action a little bit. It's of course one of the problems with picking up a system like this, and especially in a smaller game like this one, the blunders are going to affect the game pretty heavily. On the other hand, that may be better than making game-changing blunders or game-destroying blunders early on in one of the big games. But I feel like DAC is actually probably the optimal place to be making blunders, just because historically they did make some significant errors. I don't know if it starts with the Italian invasion. If it does, that would be a perfect situation. Although the British response was pretty damn good. Anyway, French setup, I had less discretionary units than I thought I did. I've set up at Sedan as my main defensive place, but I do have units up here, and they may be enough to prevent that landing from being particularly effective. Maybe the best move with these suckers is to try to land someplace where you know the enemy ain't going to be. Do a wee-willy keeler or whatever. All right, well, I've spent enough time. Oh, my reserve markers, which were the big thing. This one here, to help defend that section. I feel like if the line gets broken there badly, I'm in a lot of trouble. I probably can't defend the coastline all that well until I start consolidating my forces. Mainly the threat of the commandos is one of the issues. Then here and here, I've got units that are meant to pull forward and provide a pretty hefty defense against this open plain here. We'll see how well they can do. If I can kind of beat the Brits there with enough force, I could go get Amman, and hey, you know, that's game over, man. That's one of the sudden death victory conditions. What I didn't do, I could have put this in a mobile side, but it doesn't gain a lot of movement. It only gains 1 point. That doesn't seem terribly valuable, and try to run that up to help defend. It's one of the big questions is, hey, what mode do you want your units in? Well, that's part of the setup, I guess. I don't think you're specified as having to be in combat mode, even though the units are shown on their combat mode side. All right, well, again, time to wander away a little bit, because quite honestly, this is just such a daunting task, even with the small game. Okay, so the game specifies that the Commonwealth is the first player on the first turn. Remember, there's a die roll for who has initiative each turn. What's kind of interesting about that is you can put yourself in a position where you force your opponent to always be going first if he wins the initiative. You put him in a position where he cannot afford to let you get a second turn in a row. So that's one of the goals here. This has been left empty. There's nothing I could do about it as far as I can tell. That's here, and the units that I had some option on had to be placed in the landing zone. But before we jump into the sequence, I actually have to look up the damn first thing in the game. Okay, on turn 1, the Commonwealth player will attempt to land them. In the movement phase after the resolution of any naval and air barrages. Okay, so that's going to come after here. So at this point, I'm in the, hey, dive in and start doing stuff, right? Takes me long enough, but first breakout segment, if somebody was out of trace supply, well, that's not going to happen here yet. But now it's mode and movement, and I have to choose what mode I want my units to be in and what I want them to do. I have no hip shoot capabilities, but I have to kind of grasp all of this whole complicated bundle of rules at once. And Obviously, that's not going to happen, and we're going to stumble forward. But that's what really keeps me, that's what makes this so difficult for me, is I can handle a complex game when I don't have to understand all the interactions at once. But with this, so much is happening at the same time because I'm probably going to want to do an overrun here. Well, what does that mean? What do I need, for my supply line? Well, I don't know. Right? I got supplies back here. I got no trucks. That was my own choice. Is there anything I can do, or did I fuck myself? I don't know, I had to understand all the rules to manage the setup, and I didn't. And now I have to understand all the rules at this point, and I don't. And I don't know how to push forward. So I'm going to move a unit. I have chosen a piece from here, which I had to set up here, and I want to get it back to Haifa. The reason being that I'm told if I don't garrison Haifa, I'm in trouble. Do I need it to be Haifa? I don't know. It doesn't look like the French can get that far. So now I'm going to move it to here, actually, to Acre. I think that's probably sufficient. I don't want to... I don't know. It's probably sufficient just to leave it the hell right here. And that way I don't have to make this decision. So screw that. I'm not going to move a unit. All right. But I have a stack of units here that have some movement allowance. And if I count my supply range, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I can make it to here. Now, I've got a problem. I didn't deploy any fucking trucks here. And I'm not going to be able to move up the coast because of that. Unless I'm getting supplies off the Royal Navy, which I think only the commandos can actually get. Anybody can use it. So I may have caused myself some trouble. Now, I have some trucks here, and I have some trucks way over there, but it's not a lot. And there are no transport planes in this game. Okay, so I'm going to take this big-ass stack and start moving it using overrun. 1, 2, 3. Whee! I'll go into here. Wow, I probably don't have enough supply. Well, that'll suck. Oh, wait, I forgot. I gotta check to see if I have fuel. Oops, I can't move yet. I gotta check my fuel rolls. Well, to make things easier, I'm gonna need a headquarters up there. Hey, I got one sitting back here. So I'll do something. I'll do a mode change on him. I'm finally maybe going to move a unit, right? Okay, but he has, I believe, fuel requirements. I'm not sure. I have to check that because there's no little... Are there little wheels on this thing? Yeah, there are little wheels on this thing. So he has a fuel requirement. But if I fuel him at this point... He doesn't have command of units, so he can't refuel those units. Oh, fuck. Oh, God. You can see why I don't want to get started on this thing, right? Once you get the flow, once you start playing it, once you memorize it, once this is something in your regular repertoire of plays, it becomes easy enough. But as it stands, it's like facing a world at war. It's just such a huge entry cost to get to that point. And that's why this game's here. But honestly, that entry cost is so hard to justify when you sprinkle through a lot of different games in your life. The guys that I see who play this fairly heavily, fairly regularly. You need to get a break. Yes, I think this game puts you in a worse supply nightmare than most of the games of this series. So it's a horrible starting position to look at. So I'm looking at this guy. He could reach here. I can throw fuel there and activate myself at the same time. I could activate a brigade for an entire supply point. Well, my brigade, the 21st here, includes unit up here that I'm not probably going to be able to reach. See, even at 12, I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay, so I could fuel that unit up if I don't want to move my damn headquarters. if I'm going to move my headquarters, I have to be on this mode, in which case I don't think that I can throw my supply at that point. Another little rule I have to look up. But like, I don't think I can throw it at range 12. I think I have to flip over, be in this mode if I'm going to move in order to fuel everything up. I'm not sure. But then what that means is for one full supply point, I can activate these 2 units, which I could get for 2 tokens. Screw that, man. But I only have 2 full supply points. I have enough to maybe move in combat, and then I'm done. And, you know, this is not going to be some vast drive up the coast or anything like that. And then I look elsewhere, and what do I have? I have a lot of supply here. So I could actually draw from that supply, but that's supply that's already being pushed forward. And then I have more back here. No, I have nothing there. I have to paw through all my stacks. I got a bunch here, but it's out of range, I think. 2, 3, 4. Yeah, that's not in range of me. And then I have more over here. And I mean, I just don't have a fucking grasp on what I'm gonna need, but I know that this ain't enough for me to even activate this stack and use it going up the coast. I could pull into some of that, but if I do that, then what am I doing to the situation over here? I just don't know. I don't remember having this kind of problem with Burma, where supply was tight, there's no question. But I don't remember being in this kind of position where, oh, geez, look, you've got a whole front to cope with, and fucking figure it out, dude. You know? I remember there was supply near where I wanted it, and the things I kind of wanted to do seemed doable. Here, I'm just not feeling like I can do a damn thing. What's missing here? Burma had maybe a couple of very tiny scenarios where you just had a little slice of the map and a really tiny goal, you know, an operation that's already set up so you can see how things flow and they work. This is not meant to start with. It might be a good thing to play around with if you've got one of those bigger ones and you just played one of those little scenarios and then moved to this next. But yeah, Burma had a nice get your feet wet scenario just to stick your toe in, see how the systems work, see how the combat works, etc. Very much like the old Vietnam had. And I think that's what I'm missing here, is I didn't have that chance. The smaller scenario is really this, but with less days. And for people who are truly new to the system, and I count myself in that place essentially, you need a real training scenario for something this complex. You need the game to hold your hand a little more than this does. And I think the original early games in the series, and you know, even Burma, which isn't that early, although I'm looking at second edition and thinking, well, that was 2008 or whatever. But the original was not one of the earliest games in the series, and that gave that kind of slice. Now, my options are try to bully my way through this, which is probably what I'm going to do. Pull out another game like Burma or Enemy at the Gates and try to learn the system with one of those tiny little slice scenarios. Or just say, screw it, man. This isn't the time. I'm going to put it aside. Which is more likely than the second choice. Because there's no way in hell I'm going to set up another, I'm going to sort through and try to find the counters and set up a tiny little scenario out of a game that I don't have out and that I wasn't planning on playing right away. But I have to say, if you're someone who tried to learn the system off of, hey, this is one of our intro games, and you look at Reluctant Enemies, it's not the way to do it. Maybe there's some little print and play scenarios that are available or something that could help you learn that initial part, but this is not the way to get used to the basic flow of the system, because you're given this humongous challenge of a really horrible supply situation on top of, hey, what do you want to do for the entire campaign? You know? Is to say that in the new Sicily, the Operational Matters magazine that comes with Sicily in it, they do provide one of these very tiny scenarios, a half a turn, very limited map section probably, and some other smaller scenarios where you're not thrown in having to make all these decisions. I may put this one on the ice. I really don't know, and give a try with a different game in the series, because honestly, this isn't the way to learn this series. Well, I don't think I can make this attack yet. Important as it is, I think I want to see what's going on here, whether or not I make it through here. Now, let me look at the setup chart for 4116, because I can't paw through the enemy units, but I can look at the setup chart, right? Alright, so there's just that cav there. That's 3 strength points. It's got a 3 effectiveness rating. I've got a 4 effectiveness rating, or whatever, couple of units here. Combat supply would cost me an entire 3 tokens to get out of there. It's going to cost me, these are independent units and French units. Now I think I can command the French units with this. Who is this? This is Wilson. Yeah, but he can't command them all at once. I'm thinking about fuel, so I'd have to fuel the truck mobile infantry. I'd have to fuel the tank, but not the cav. So I may not want to move the tank. Although armor attacking in the open is doubled. Jesus. I'm just paralyzed by the decision making in this game. And this is why I definitely didn't want to go with the first of the games in terms of temporal subject matter, which was Blitzkrieg Legend, because that's huge. And however, it may have given me an easier setup than this does. This is the kind of paralysis that I just don't want to make. But I gotta do something, right? You know, I mean, fuck it. Let's do something. All right. So to fuel those is going to take 3 talent, 3 points, 3 little T's. So I get rid of this 5, and now because I've got so many counters in play, and this game doesn't come with a very big counter mix, I get 4 of these and 1 of these. There are 2s and 3s and such not, but I don't have them available, and that's all under here. And screw it, I don't want to put it under. Okay, so now I'm all fueled up. Where do I want to go with this? Well, there's supply back here. Oh, yeah, let's make sure I could get this supply. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No, I couldn't get this. So I'm taking supply from here, I guess. I don't know. Oh, let's give him his supplies back. Alright, so I took that supply. I'm all fueled up. Put these all in movement mode because I want to make some ground. Now I don't remember where they came from. I guess it's here. 4413. Is that right? Won't be able to, yeah. Won't be able to make this mistake again. And let's get moving. That's a half, 1.5, 2.5, 3.5. And escarpment and stuff, it's all negated, but now I'm overrunning. So that puts me to 6.5 movement points. I'm not really sure I need this many movement points. Could leave the armor behind, but I don't know. All right, 6.5 movement points. I've got to record that somewhere, and I got to find myself some dice. Okay, so this is going to be an overrun attack against this thing. I've got a little dot there. That's a point. Oh, points of interest are an actual thing. Ah, yeah, I didn't even think this. Okay, so that's a point of interest. It doesn't qualify as anything that has any effect on terrain in general, except that it's a good drop-off point for trace supply. All right, so now I follow the combat sequence. I identify the defending and attacking hexes. We've done that. We expend supply points. Well, I'm still in range, I hope. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I've got to range out to 12. So now, in order to fight, I have to spend 3 more talents. Or whatever. So there we go. And we don't know if we're taking them, you know, from a safe place, because we have not figured out everything that we want to do, which is really what you have to do in this game, at least on a localized basis. Tactically, you know, I have to figure out, do I want to take my supply from here or from here? Right, well, I don't have a whole hell of a lot of choices with my headquarters where it is. Of course, I could have a, yeah, see, I have a headquarters hiding under here that could be commanding this operation. Because the headquarters are under the other units, because you have to keep a combat unit on top for an opponent, it makes it so that you lose track of where your headquarters are, and you don't know how to, you know, where you can take supply from. So I could have taken it from there. I probably want to. So let's swap this supply back out. Now, then there's the question of, am I too many hexes out of there? Okay, well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I think I need to be, ooh. All right, well, we'll use this headquarters for this attack. But if we have to go further, we can't use that headquarters, and we might have to use this one. All right, so now I've paid my supplies. These guys have to pay their supplies. They have to pay 2. Now, I had some question because somewhere it seemed to imply it only takes 1 for 1 step. So we're going to look that up to see if combat supply Defender, 2T per combat, exception if 1 RE or less, it's only 1T. So I only have to use 1, and that leaves me with 3 behind. All right, so we've gotten that far. Now what? The attacker identifies his action rating. Well, this is dangerous, but I think I want to use my motorized, oh jeez, I don't want to lose my motorized unit, that's the problem. I'll use my Cav, which is a very effective unit, which I also don't want to lose, but it's smaller, and I don't know, maybe something can be done about it. I can get some replacements at least. So that'll be my lead unit, and the defender doesn't have any choice. The defender has his terrain choice, and players determine initial odds. Well, the terrain crossing here is clear. This is terrain that's in my hex. That pale green is low hills. There's no dividing terrain. The only thing there is a point of interest, which is unimportant, and clear terrain. So I'm in the open, which is going to be open line, and armor will be, and mechs will be doubled. Now, that doubling can be countered by the enemy having armor type components as well. Okay, so that's what we have here. And now we determine the initial odds. Well, I have 5, 6, 7. I have some armor. 8, 9 to 3. So our initial odds are 3 to 1. But we have a potential for a surprise. So we find the surprise table. It has to be somewhere. There it is. Okay, so this is an overrun, so I need a 9 or more, and my action rating is a 4 against his 3, so I get a +1. I'll roll 2 dice. The black die is the surprise shifts if they're needed, and they are, because I get a +1, that's 11. I only get 1 shift, so I go from 3 to 1 in the open to 4 to 1 in the open. Okay. Now I roll 2 dice, modify the DRM by 1, see if 9.6 has anything additional. The 1 is my my quality again. That's the only thing I think affects it. Mode could. I think it's just, yeah. So I'll have 2 dice at +1 on that table. So I roll an 8, and my result is an attacker gets an option, the defender loses 1 and has an option. The defender loses 1, we're going to have to record that. If the attacker takes his option as a retreat, he doesn't get to keep going. The supply here might be vital to me. So I think I take the option as a casualty. I was hoping for a better combat result out of this. A little bit higher die roll, I'd get into the exploit range where I wouldn't be dealing with this. If I take a retreat, it's a hex back. This hill could become a problem. You know, I just don't see too much capability of the Vichy French being able to do much here. I'm going to actually save my unit with the retreat. Okay, now comes one of the hard things. I've got to mark my units to indicate that they moved, because I'm going to be moving plenty of units throughout the course of a turn. So I'm going to actually tilt them 90 degrees. There are no moved markers or anything like that to handle things. And I'm going to need lots of breaks in the course of a turn until I get kind of used to this and until I'm not using the camera anymore. So that's my first unit moved. Ouch. A fair amount of supplies back here that I need to do something about. And I'm very worried about the French there. So I've got to advance. But the problem is, I don't think I'm going to be able to overrun. I look at the units I have, and they're just not strong enough. So I'm going to have to activate this and give it fuel. It takes 1, 1T of fuel to activate. And it's not part of anything, I don't think. Well, it's part of the 5th. So I could fuel up the entirety of the 5th from here. And that seems like a good idea. Well, no, maybe not. That would be one supply. But there's quite a few units of it. Yeah, let's get this back. Oh, jeez. See, for two tokens, I can move into place here to prepare for an attack. But for one full supply, I could move everything up there. And then I could actually maybe, well, I can't do an overrun because I can't pick this thing up. And I just don't feel comfortable with 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. With what would I be looking at? 5 strength points and crap. So I'd only have 5 strength points. I could be at a higher quality if I devote my infantry to that. But it's not good enough by my standpoint. There are no reinforcements coming in this turn. So I'd have to face whatever the Vichy French can do there. Crap. I hate thinking this much. You know, it starts to become automatic. I remember that from Burma, but this is like learning wargaming all over again. All right, I don't know. I mean, I've got 1, 2. Well, first of all, this is not motorized. This is 1, 2, 3, 4. You know, I'm not really getting much of a benefit out of that unit. No, maybe I sent... Yeah, I sent a unit of the 5th out of here. So if I fuel up the whole 5th, it only cost me 3 out of 4 talons, I guess, assuming that I could think in advance, which I didn't do, and I'm very incapable of doing. Generally, I like to keep my units less spread out than they are just by the nature of this setup. Yeah, so for 3 talents, or tokens, or whatever, well, I don't want to spend them out of there, because that's kind of defended. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, but I'm not... 1, 2, 3, 4. Hey, within 1 hex is close enough. So you know what? Whatever I had here, the 5 that was here, I could take some of them from there. Of course, maybe I want them there later, but right now I don't. So I had a 5 here. So that's 3 and 2. Let's get that 5 back. I'm down 1 and 2 from all the way back here instead. Now, I can load up 2 of those and move them out of the way where they're not really in danger, or I can leave them where they are. But that was, wait, that was where I was. Have I spent yet? I don't fucking know. God, this is a headache. So did I spend my supply yet from that 3 and 2? I really don't know. I think I spent 1 token out of it, so I owe 3 more tokens. I'm going to take them out of here, I guess. That won't work. So now I'm at 3 and 1 here, I think. Of course, I may have screwed up. There's no question. And now everything here is fueled up, including this unit that I fueled before. Does that make sense? I would have spent 3, 6. That's, yeah, 1.5. So I should put a fuel marker over near this thing in the off chance that I get an exploitation move or something. Those guys are fueled up. These guys are not, because they weren't part of the command. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move my guys 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, we'll leave him in movement mode. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Actually in combat mode. What about him? He's too slow. I don't really want him in the hex, but he might as well. This. Wow. This thing is not motorized, but man, it gets a lot of movement if I flip it. So we'll take him with us, and we're all gathering there, preparing for an attack. Now, maybe I flipped a counter. I don't think I can flip this guy because he's needed his whole supply range. So he has effectively moved. He's kind of exposed here, not a lot of defense, but there's also very little way for the Vichy French to get into here. This mountain range cuts it. It could slip down this way, but I don't expect to see that kind of raiding happen. We'll see. I'm not going to play with the anti-raider rules. Alright, so now I've moved a couple of stacks of units, even if I had to correct things. Woo! This Wilson headquarters, I think, is going to be absolutely required for me to do anything. It's going to have to stay on this 12 side. And that's really a problem, because I can't move it forward, and it's sort of at the extent of the line. The problem is, I'm not going to be able to make an attack from here, here, or here without using it. And then I've got these units which I don't... Oh, wow. What the hell? What about these? Well, I got a pile of supplies here that I didn't know about. And a headquarters. Huh. Interesting. Yeah, it's really hard to keep track of what you have in a hex. The headquarters to me is always the thing that should be on top. So if that's not there, I'm not going to be aware. So I actually have this Australian headquarters which can throw supply to these guys. And they've got a decent amount of supply there, which I may have known at an earlier point. I'm spending a lot, and that really worries me, but I'm never going to have a time when I can advance as easily as I am right now. So what that means, I think, is that I can actually move this. That's going to take fuel. Yeah, that sucks. I think I'll take from here, because I have little enough elsewhere. And this is supplied, but it's not, I think, part of these optional rules. And this doesn't help either, that there's special rules for the game that you've got to look up. I mean, that's commonly the case, but it adds to the burden. So all brigades can be spent. Nothing special about the headquarters here. The core headquarters, nothing particularly special here either. Am I wrong about my fuel costs? Are they actually as high as I think they are? This is the kind of course question that, hey, if I screwed this up, the whole thing's fucked up, basically. But I think it's it's 1 T per unit. It sucks that I have one-step units, right? So, yeah, if I want to fuel this up and get it moving, and I've already spent that, so let's get this. I don't know where. This looks like a good location because it zips me to both of those. So we'll move this here and turn it. And that has me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's close enough. Holding supply back to there. And now I can try to launch an attack along the coast and maybe use the Australians to punch through up here. God knows. I'd like to get control of this road. Remember, I need to stay on the roads because, like railways, they're my trace supply here. All right, let me pull back while I try to figure out what I can do. Well, something I didn't expect. Now, I moved all of this unit, fueled it all up. So maybe I could save a point, but there was like another part of this unit over here that I moved. But things with white movement point factors don't move as motorized units. Now, what I was not expecting there was that I have these motorized infantry who have white movement on one side, which is to say, if I've got them in combat status, I can move slowly and they're not using up enough fuel to count against the fuel needs. I needed the faster moving units to get into place before, but then over here, these guys are just regular infantry. But I noticed it with this guy was that, gee, I couldn't tell what he was because his unit designation looks like something I don't know what it is. It's got like one wheel. What the hell's up with that? And we've lost focus because my stupid camera doesn't work the way it used to. And now if we look in, and unfortunately this is not the best possible, but if we look at the different unit types, we have infantry, but we don't have a differential for that motorized infantry where it's got the wheels on it. I don't know what's up with this unit with one wheel, and it has it on this side as well. So, but I can launch an attack against this cav. We're sitting on a supply dump. I can't do an overrun, but I don't want to do an overrun if I can launch a pretty decent infantry attack. Now this artillery is also able to hand draw, so I can actually just shove all these units up here. Why am I moving the artillery? Yeah, that's a good question, but you know, I might as well inch it forward is the way I'm looking. And here I might be able to get an attack off. The danger, of course, is there's a French reserve unit there, but we got a lot of units here. Can we afford to give up the space that we're in here? I don't know, but we'll move forward in attack formation there as well. What about here? Well, maybe we're better off not being a motorized unit. Now, some of these units I don't have much choice with, but I can leave them behind, damn them. Because supply is just such a problem. And I can just shove these guys up to here and see what they can take, because they get to use that road movement allowance. I'm still going to be using up ammunition dumps, but at least things aren't going to be as painful as they've been proving to be in terms of moving stuff. My foot units can do a little bit better. So I think I've actually moved everything. I don't know. And that puts me down to the supply phase. Now, I'm going to load this video up because it's gone more than an hour and I'm fatigued as hell. It may take me a week to get through one turn of this game. Just because I'm trying to learn things and I really do not have the focus to keep sitting and playing something. So, this is June 8th.